It's 2 a.m. You're awake again. And somehow, you're thinking about money, about your first 10,000, about how everyone else seems to be moving forward while you still feel like you're standing still. You tell yourself the same thing every time. I need to start saving. I need to get serious. I need to stop wasting money. And for a moment, it feels like clarity, like this time will be different. So you try. Month 1, you save a little. Month 2, you're actually proud of yourself. Month 3, it starts to feel possible for the first time. It feels like maybe you're finally changing. Maybe this is the version of you that finally gets it right. Then month 4 hits. Not some huge disaster. Nothing dramatic. Just life. Work gets heavier. Stress gets louder. Unexpected bills show up. Takeout because you're too tired. Little rewards because the week felt hard. Weekends out. Things you swear you'll make up for later. And that's how it happens. Not all at once. Quietly. A little here, a little there. Until one day you check your account and realize you're slipping. The progress is disappearing. The money you were proud of saving is slowly being undone. And watching yourself undo your own progress, that frustration feels different. Because now it's not just about money. It feels like proof. Proof that maybe you're the problem. So you stop checking. You stop tracking. You tell yourself it's temporary, just a rough month. But 1 month becomes 3. And before you realize it, you're back in the same place. Same cycle, same guilt, same quiet disappointment every time you open your bank app. Same promise to yourself, next month. Next month I'll do it properly. But maybe you were never failing the plan. Maybe there was never a real plan to fail. And maybe the problem isn't discipline. Maybe the problem is simpler than that. Did you ever actually make a plan? No, seriously. Not a feeling. Not, I should save more. Not, I need to be better. An actual plan, a number, a deadline, a reason. Because most people don't fail to save their first 10,000 because they spend too much. They fail because they never define what they're actually trying to build. And you cannot build what you refuse to define. Most people live financially inside vague sentences. I need to save more. I need to spend less. I need to be better with money. It sounds responsible. It sounds like progress. But it isn't. Because vague goals feel productive without requiring action. They let you feel like you're trying without forcing proof. And that's dangerous because save more means nothing. More than what? By when? For what? How much? If your goal has no number, no deadline, and no system, it isn't a goal. It's a wish. And wishes are comfortable. Because wishes don't demand sacrifice. They don't force hard decisions. They don't expose your habits. They let you feel productive without changing anything. That's why people stay there. Because clarity creates pressure, and pressure is uncomfortable. If your goal is vague, every purchase feels harmless. The expensive dinner feels fine. The random shopping feels justified. The just this once spending doesn't feel like damage. Because there's nothing specific to protect, no clear destination, no visible cost, just a general feeling that you should probably be doing better. That's not enough. Because guilt is not a strategy, shame is not a budget, and hope is not a financial plan. People think they need more discipline. Often, they just need more clarity. Because discipline gets easier when the target is real. When you know exactly what you're building, your money finally has direction. Your brain does not chase vague. It doesn't wake up excited by financial stability. It responds to specifics, targets, deadlines, visible progress. That's how people work. Save money is too foggy. Your brain can't connect emotionally to fog. But I'm building my first $10,000 emergency fund by next year. That feels real. Now every decision has context. Now takeout isn't just food, it's distance from the goal. Now impulse spending has a name. It costs time. It costs progress. It costs trust in yourself. That changes behavior. Because once a goal becomes specific, it becomes emotional. It stops being an idea and starts becoming identity. Now you're not just someone who wants to be better with money. You're someone building something. And people protect what feels real. Nobody protects vague. That's why vague goals lose every fight against convenience. Every fight against boredom. Every fight against, I deserve this. Specific goals fight back because they remind you what you're choosing between. Comfort now or freedom later. And that choice gets clearer when the future has a name. 10,000. That number matters because it's visible, measurable, real. It feels like the line between surviving and finally breathing. That's why it works, because the brain respects what it can see. Most people don't fail because they make one terrible decision. They fail because they keep making small decisions with no clear direction. That's the real danger. Not dramatic failure, drift, slow, quiet, forgettable drift. Subscriptions you forgot, convenience spending, social spending, emotional spending. Tiny leaks repeated so often they become invisible. Nobody panics over one takeout. Nobody feels guilty over one online order. Nobody thinks one expensive weekend matters. But money problems are usually built in silence. Quiet habits, repeated choices, things that feel too small to matter until they become a pattern. And when your financial goals are vague, drift wins every time. Because there's nothing pulling against it. No clear reason to stop. No urgent target demanding protection, just life happening. And life is expensive when you're not paying attention. Then people blame themselves in the wrong way. They think they lack discipline. They think they're irresponsible. They think maybe they're just bad with money. But often, the truth is simpler. They were never intentionally managing it. They were just reacting. And reaction is expensive. Because if you don't tell money where to go, life will. And life has very expensive ideas. But here's the harder truth. A lot of people stay vague on purpose. Not consciously, but emotionally. Because vague goals protect your ego. If your goal is unclear, you can always tell yourself you're working on it. You can stay in the identity of someone trying, without ever facing whether you're actually progressing. That feels safer. Specific goals are dangerous, because specifics create proof. Proof that you moved closer, or proof that you didn't. And honesty like that is uncomfortable. If you say, I'm saving my first $10,000 by next year, suddenly excuses feel weaker. Suddenly your habits become visible. Suddenly your choices have consequences. That pressure scares people. Because once the goal is real, avoidance gets harder. You can't hide behind potential forever. You have to confront behavior. And behavior tells the truth. Not your intentions, your habits. That hurts. Because most people like the idea of discipline more than the reality of it. They like planning, talking, imagining. But real progress asks for repetition. Boring repetition. Saying no. Waiting longer. Choosing differently. Quietly. Without applause. That's hard. So people stay vague. Because vague lets you keep hope without changing behavior. But hope without structure is just delay. And delay gets expensive, especially when years pass and you realize you've been saying, I need to get serious for far too long. So what does a real plan actually look like? Not motivation, not a fresh Monday, not a promise to yourself at 2 a.m. A real plan. If I woke up tomorrow with nothing saved and had to build my first $10,000 again, here's what I'd actually do. First, pick the exact number. Not save more, not be better. The exact number. I am building my first $10,000 because your brain needs something visible, something it can measure, something it can protect. Second, give it a deadline. Not someday, not eventually, a real timeline. 12 months, 18 months, 2 years, something honest. Because without a deadline, goals become fantasies. Time creates urgency, urgency creates action. Third, break it down monthly. $10,000 in 18 months is about $555 a month. Now it becomes real. Now you can ask the right question. Can I actually do that? And if the answer is no, you do not abandon the goal. You adjust the timeline, not the commitment. That matters. Because too many people quit just because the first version of the plan was unrealistic. The goal stays, the method changes. Fourth, find the leaks. Not in theory. Actually, where is your money disappearing? Eating out, impulse spending, subscriptions, convenience spending, social pressure spending, emotional spending. Most people guess. That's the problem. You need to know, because you cannot fix what you refuse to measure. Fifth, automate the boring part. Transfer first, spend later, not the other way around. Because discipline is unreliable, systems are stronger. If saving depends on motivation, it will fail the moment life gets stressful. Automation removes negotiation. And that matters. Because most bad money decisions happen in emotional moments. Tired, stressed, bored, lonely. Convenience wins in emotional moments. Systems protect you from yourself. And finally, build the plan around real life. Not your best month, not your most disciplined version of yourself. Real life, messy life, busy life, stressful months, unexpected bills, low motivation. Because a real plan is not something that works when life is easy. It's something that survives when life gets hard. That's the difference. Anyone can save money during a perfect month. The goal is to build a system that survives ordinary life. That is what actually changes people. The first 10,000 is not really about the money. That's what people miss. It's about proof. Proof that you can trust yourself. Proof that your future matters more than your impulses. Proof that you are capable of consistency. 10,000 is psychological. Because before that, money feels fragile, temporary, easy to lose, easy to reset back to zero. But something changes when you hit that first real milestone. You stop feeling like someone who is trying. You start feeling like someone who is building. That shift matters. Because confidence with money doesn't come from motivation. It comes from evidence. Evidence that you can do hard things repeatedly. Evidence that your discipline survives ordinary life. Not perfect life. Ordinary life. Busy weeks, stressful months, unexpected expenses, bad moods, real life. That's what makes the first $10,000 powerful. It proves your habits are stronger than your excuses. And once you believe that, everything changes because wealth starts with identity. Not income, identity. The belief that you are someone who follows through, someone who protects their future, someone who stops drifting. That first milestone builds trust. And trust changes behavior faster than motivation ever will. Because once you trust yourself financially, decisions get quieter. Cleaner, less emotional. You stop negotiating with every impulse because the future finally feels real. One day you realize your first $10,000 was never really about money. It was about becoming someone you could trust. That's why it matters. It's not just savings, it's self-respect. Most people think they are one good month away from fixing everything. One disciplined month, one strong reset, one perfect budget. But real financial change rarely comes from dramatic moments. It comes from definition. From deciding, this is the number, this is the timeline, this is what matters. People who save their first $10,000 are not always smarter. They're not always earning more. They just stop negotiating with vagueness. They stop saying, someday. They stop treating money like something they'll figure out later. They decide. And that decision changes everything. Because money without direction disappears. Money with purpose compounds. That's the difference. Not intelligence, not luck. Clarity. Most people don't fail because they spend too much. They fail because they never fully define what they are building. They stay in maybe next month. Maybe when work calms down. Maybe when income increases. Maybe when life feels easier. But life rarely gets easier first. Decision comes first. Then behavior follows. Then identity changes. That's how people build real stability. Not through motivation, through definition. You cannot build what you refuse to define. That is the hidden habit, not laziness, not bad luck, not coffee, vagueness. And until that changes, nothing else really does.